I'm on a journey around Jamaica with comedian and actor Chris Daley, examining myths and exposing the hard truths of what the British Empire really meant to this island. The next leg of our trip is going to be an uncomfortable ride.
I mean, this is the way to arrive, isn't it?
This is lovely.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Yeah, however, I mean, we're at some point coming here to talk about the British Empire. I'm going to have to talk about slavery, aren't I?
You really can't leave it out of the story.
I mean, even just the business of being on the water,
Right.
coming into Montego Bay, you think about that's how people arrived here, but below decks,
Yeah.
crammed in boats.
I mean, there's a story I learned that sharks, even to this day, still follow the
Shipping routes.
shipping routes.
Wow.
Because naturally, everybody didn't make it.
Yeah.
It's not the nicest thing to talk about.
No. Can you see why British people don't want to talk about it, though?
I can.
'Cause you wouldn't- you wouldn't, would you?
Listen, we know why you don't want to talk about
Yeah.
it. And it's important, because this is something that we don't even talk about enough in Jamaica. I think people generally just don't want to go there.
Right.
And right now, the vibe in Jamaica is all about, one love,
Yeah.
Jamaica no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the slogans
Yeah,
we've created.
exactly.
For the not only for the industry, but
for the rest of the world.
For the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear the apologies coming now.
Yeah.
And they're just not enough. Like, you can't apologize for something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a cruise ship over there, which is sort of also kind of adds to the irony.
They're still coming. The ships are still coming.
The ships are still coming, but I think they're having a better time of it.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's retrace our steps a little. For starters, it's fair to say that slavery formed the foundation for economic success in the British Empire. In the 1640s, the so-called Triangle of Trade was set up, whereby merchants would load up in Liverpool with manufactured goods, sail to West Africa, trade the goods for enslaved Africans, sail to the Caribbean, sell their captives, then return to Liverpool with rum, sugar and tobacco to start the cycle all over again. Over the next 160 years, Britain transported around 3.4 million Africans to the Americas and the Caribbean. Packed like sardines, unable to stand or exercise for the grueling journey of anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, 20% of them, around 680,000 people, died en route. For those that survived the journey, further horrors lay in wait.
If we're going to talk about slavery, we need to face up to the brutality endured by my ancestors. I brought Al to the National Museum West to find out more from curator Sharifa Balfour.
So these shackles we have are very weighty. They were made out of wrought iron. And so these would actually be used on the enslaved person's feet, their ankle. They would have both legs shackled together, or maybe they would be shackled to somebody else, another enslaved person.
So you'd have a chain of people
A chain of people.
held together like that.
Yes. And these are the really horrible ones. These are so small because they would have been used on children. And you can just see the sheer size of this one. It's even smaller than my palm. And you would have enslaved persons who were blacksmiths making these shackles.
Certainly wouldn't be comfortable at all.
Absolutely
It would
not.
cut you, wouldn't it?
If you were captured in Africa and you have to be marched from inland to a slave port, by the time you get to the ship, after you've been held on the coast for several months, even sometimes more than a year, you essentially would be raw.
And blooded, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, they're being beaten, they're being whipped. And after they whip you, they would pickle you. And pickling means that they would take salt, vinegar, and bird pepper and rub it into the wounds of the enslaved person.
I know that's fact, but I still cannot comprehend that a human being would do this to another. Like, I can't digest it.
Enslaved Africans were seen as the property of enslavers. So they were not seen as human. They were deemed right next to cows, goats, horses, that kind of thing. And they saw owning slaves as an investment. And you don't want your investment to run away.
You see, it's interesting, though, because why would you treat an investment like this? It's because they're human beings
That's right.
who are capable of of running away or revenge or freeing themselves.
Every single thing that white enslavers did was to subdue the spirit of the enslaved person because their main concern was a rebellion. Punishments including maiming, burning, beating, raping, sodomy, you name it, it was done. So for example, Thomas Thistlewood, he was one of the most famous Jamaican slave masters. His way of punishing, how is the best way to put it? He made the other slave go in the other slave's mouth. So there was feces in the other slave's mouth.
Gosh, I mean, it's only brutal, isn't it? There's no other way of talking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Slave trading was finally abolished in 1807. It could have been earlier, but for Minister of War and Colonies Secretary Henry Dundas, who added the word gradual into the 1792 Abolition Bill. That delay allowed over 500,000 more Africans to be shipped across the Atlantic. His memorial now sits in the centre of Edinburgh. Even after 1807, slavery continued as the pro-slave trade lobby of sugar plantation owners, merchants and MPs exercised their power to block full emancipation. Business was booming for the empire. Let's not rock the boat. In Jamaica, as word of abolition spread across the plantations, so did unrest. Believing emancipation had been granted, Sam Sharp, slave and deacon of the Baptist Church, organised protests that would shape Jamaica's path out of slavery.
So Sam Sharp and his trusted followers, they decided to take an oath with each other to say that on the 28th of December, they were going to announce to the slave masters that they would no longer work until they were paid and granted their freedom.
Wow.
So it is on the night of December 28, 1831, that Kensington Estate was the first plantation to go up in flames. And by midnight of that night, 16 plantations were on fire.
So
and
the revolution was on.
It was on.
In the ensuing bloody battles of what became known as the Baptist War or the Great Jamaican Slave Revolt, 14 whites were killed along with 200 enslaved Jamaicans. As retribution for the uprising, Britain's colonial government executed as many as 340 more, including Sam Sharp.
But had Sam Sharp wanted a revolution, or did he want peaceful protest?
What he wanted was to say that we were going to don our tools, we're going to practice passive resistance.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he planned for one thing and something else happened.
Yeah.
Because the reaction wasn't passive.
Right, it was not passive.
With slavery finally abolished 7 years after Sam Sharp's courageous stand, the British government borrowed £20 million to give out in compensation, equivalent to almost £2 billion today. Not to the enslaved, though, to their owners for the loss of workers. British taxpayers were repaying that loan up until 2015. Even with abolition, there remains the question of reparations, to compensate the people affected by this horrific crime against humanity.
What do you think about the money given over?
That would really help with, paying off debt and building the kind of infrastructure that the island needs. Healthcare, schools, roadworks. What can I say? You left an entire island, entire country, an entire population of people in a state of destitution.
At the time of filming, Jamaica has yet to receive any reparations for slavery. But some descendants of slave owners are trying to atone for the atrocities committed by their forebears. The aristocratic Trevelyan family, who owned 6 sugar plantations in Grenada, have agreed to pay reparations and have publicly apologised for their family's actions.
It's been a very emotional day today. What I like about what we're doing here is we're telling the story from our perspective. And it's an important story to tell.
When you come face to face with slavery, even at this historical distance, even with the distance of time, this perspective, the barbarity, the horror, the core injustice of the whole thing is still shocking. And I think that explains why some people are now looking to reparation as the way of righting this wrong, as a solution.
When I saw the shackles, it brought home to me how cruel humanity can be. I thought about trying them on today. Because I wanted to go through that process. Because I'm an actor too. And I wanted to give myself the opportunity to feel. But I also felt like, I know we're going after the truth, but it probably would have been too much for me. Even now, feeling it now would have been too much for me.